Hi there, it's Toek with Breathwork Beats. Welcome to another video tutorial. In today's video I would like to show you how I make a music breathwork journey for Sandy from Breathe with Sandy. It's one of the videos we've made at the beginning of this year. There is a great feedback from this session. People enjoy the music, people enjoy the session that Sandy created, his guidance, his mantras and affirmations, and people as well enjoy my music that I've created for this session. And in this video I would like to specifically show you some details of this music journey and what I did and what kind of plugins I used. I want this to be as informative video as possible, and I want you to get as much as possible on the details of creating this kind of longer breathwork journey. So I hope this video is going to be helpful in some way for you if you are a beginner music producer, and you will take a lot from this session. So let's dive into Ableton. So we are in the arrangement view of our session. As you can see, I have already my arrangement visually represented here in the first MIDI track. I made these MIDI blocks for myself to know where I'm placing certain parts of the arrangement in my session. So we've decided with Sandy that we wanted to have 1 hour breathwork session here, and we wanted to have a little bit more longer introduction than usual. So we've decided for 8 minutes intro to explain every detail of this advanced breathing session and really introduce the breather to the session and prepare the breather to this longer breathing. Another part, we are starting with 30 minutes of active breathing after 8 minutes of this intro. And the arrangement of this 30 minutes is a little bit more complex, actually the most complex part of this session, as you can see, because this is a main part for the breather to get inspired by the breathing, to get encouraged by the breathing through the whole period of 30 minutes. So I always want the breathing part to be as much intense and with a lot of varieties when we talk about the instruments and chord progressions and mood changes as possible. Because we want to keep the breather interested in this journey. After 30 minutes of active breathing, Sandy wanted to implement some mantras at the end. After the active breathing, in the period of meditation and integration part, he wanted to include some mantras, and we've decided for 12 minutes for this. And at the very end, a little bit different piece of music, really calming down the nervous system and really going inside yourself with a very gentle pieces of music and integrating what we've already experienced in the whole journey before. And this last piece lasts 9 minutes. And the whole journey, as you can see, is 1 hour long here. So let's dive into the session, into the sounds that we have here. First of all, I've implemented these risers between every parts of the arrangement. It's a common thing I do. If you watched my previous videos, I like to put this white noise transition between every part in the arrangement that is different from each other. Let's just give it a quick listen here. So it's nothing special, it's just a riser fading in and out. And as you can see, I've placed these risers in different parts of the arrangement because I was transitioning from one chord progression to another one, or I was transitioning from one piece of rhythms to the another one to make it much more smoother. It's an extra variety in the arrangement on the top, extra transition piece on the top, except the instruments that I already have, and they are making their own arrangement here. So another instrument, strummed guitar. We've discussed with Sandy that we wanted to have something with an acoustic guitar. He sent me a reference track that we wanted to kind of imitate. He sent it to me as an inspiration, and from that point I started to construct something similar to what he sent it to me. So I created this acoustic guitar piece, which is here. Let's give it a listen. So it's a simple chord progression. I think this piece was in C major from what I remember. And at the beginning, from the C major, I wanted to transition smoothly into another scale, which is much more emotional and much more sophisticated and much more nuanced, I would say. It's difficult to describe it with the words. I can show you how it sounds later on. But in general, I built it with Scalar 2, with the help of Scalar 2, and combined it with the instrument that I have here, which is strummed guitar. We just gave a listen to this instrument at the beginning of the session. Now we go to the second part of the breathing round, and let's give it a listen right now here, somewhere in the middle. So the vibe here is a little bit different as in the beginning. You can hear once again. This is much more uplifting, optimistic, positive vibe. It's a C major scale, and you can really feel that this is a different emotion than on the other part of this session. So I've used these different chord progressions, but it's a basic strumming guitar with one strumming pattern that I've played in a different way, basically. If we go inside the plugin here, it's a strummed acoustic guitar from Native Instruments. It's a series from a session guitarist. They have a lot of great instruments. And in this video, I'm not going to cover every one of these instruments that I used in detail. You can check it out online and see how you like it. If you need some acoustic guitar in your pieces of music, I can highly recommend that. It's a great sounding library, and it will give you this realistic feeling of somebody is playing acoustic guitar for you. So I use this for the strummed acoustic guitar patterns. You can see all of this automation happening here. It's basically a volume. I am raising up the volume and slowly increasing the volume in certain parts and slowly decreasing the volume in certain parts. If I go to another effect, which I've automated here, it's reverb. It's also automated. It's a little bit less automated here. I just wanted to have this effect turned on at the beginning and then later on have it without this effect of reverb. I wanted to have this more spacious feeling at the beginning of the session, that the guitar is much more ambient. So let's give it a listen with and without reverb. And now without, and with. These are basic settings, just a little bit of extra reverb at the beginning. Here we have also another part of the guitar without reverb. And one more thing, if we go to the effects tab, I added a little bit of delay here. And you can hear the sound is bouncing from left to right, just a little bit extra spaciousness and additional effect to the guitar to sound much more interesting. What I've did also with the guitar and what I like to do on a lot of instruments in my session in general on the master bass, to put a little bit of extra correction for the annoying sounding frequencies of every instrument that I have in the session. So in this case, I use Soothe to just change the quality of my mix and finalization of my tracks like nothing else. It's a pretty pricey plugin, but since I bought it, I've never regretted it, and I'm using it with every project of mine. It's really helping me to smooth every sound that I have in my piece of music. And you can hear that I wanted to get rid of these spiky, annoying frequencies with this guitar, and you can just hear for yourself now. This is without the effect. And this is with. And you can hear what I am actually decreasing the annoying frequencies here. So for some people it might be too much, but for me it still keeps the characteristic of this guitar sound. It's not taking too much from this sound, but still it soothes out this kind of guitar which can have this annoying frequency when the things are getting louder at the end and I'm stacking a lot of instruments on top of each other. So I want to keep in control some of these instruments which has these resonant frequencies, to not to fight with them later when I'm finishing. So this is guitar. Let's go to another instrument. It's just basic sitar sound. Oh, it's actually not sitar sound. I called it a sitar, but it's Tampura. I'm not familiar with all of the names of these exotic instruments. It's just a gentle drone kind of sound which is giving this oriental mood for the rest of the beat. And it just continues like that. And it's another instrument from Native Instruments. Just check it out if you like. There is a lot of different instruments inside this plugin, so you can check it out for yourself and watch some tutorials how it works. So it's basically just a drone here, and I've just manipulated some volume in certain parts to introduce this Tampura just a little bit more gradually into the mix, or fade it out gradually. So this is another one, and I didn't do anything special on this sitar. I just again launched a high pass filter with removing some low spectrum frequency here in this sound. So another one, we have India Percussion. Again, it's the same plugin. Also high pass filter. Same plugin here. Different percussion instruments, different volume levels. I've already manipulated with some panning here and giving a little bit of reverb here, but I won't go in detail. You can manipulate all of these sounds inside the plugin. So this is a percussion, and I've manipulated with the volume also with the automation, introducing the sound gradually later on. Another one is just a basic kick drum that I wanted to keep the rhythm much more steady and direct rhythm here, helping with the regular breathing for the people. And I'm using XO plugin, which is also an amazing plugin that I use most of the time for my drums, and mostly electronic drums I create for different tracks. But in general, there is a whole library of different sounds here. And it's been a very useful plugin for me in general, and I've been using it for years now. It's just a great plugin that I use for most of my music. You got all of these different sounds, but in general I used just one kick here. It's only this sound, no extra effects here. I wanted this kick to be as clear as possible, just to give me this rhythm. Another set of instruments, these are percussion instruments. If we zoom in a little bit closer, this is the first set of the loops I've recorded with different plugin, but I have it on my other computer, on my other laptop. The plugin that is not working on this laptop, but I often use my second laptop to record some samples from different plugins and then export them to the session on this computer here that I have. What I can tell you, I am using for these samples here, I've recorded them with the use of a great plugin. It's a session percussionist from Native Instruments. I used this plugin recently for all of my beats, mostly all of my beats, where I want to have a really nice, evocative and still oriental percussion for my beats. And this is the first one. This is just a basic loop that I've created, and the second one on top of it. And this is how they sound together. And combined it with the kick. So basically these are the main drums of the session. This is the main groove and rhythm that people are going to breathe to. So going back to the percussion, what I did on the percussion is I just introduced some EQ. Later on, I think, yes, in the mix, I wanted to make some EQing here to cut out certain parts of this groove here. Because later on, when I was introducing different parts of the arrangement of this beat, I wanted to have much more instruments, and this percussion, I needed to still keep the rhythm, but I didn't want it to have the much broader spectrum of the frequencies, to cover the broader spectrum of the frequencies, because it would take the place in the mix for the different interesting instruments. So I wanted to keep the same rhythm here, but as you can hear it right now, maybe a full track. There is a lot of things going on here, and I wanted to keep it as clean as possible. So I'm just sometimes taking out some information from the original sound. In this case, I wanted to keep the groove, but I didn't want the higher and lower frequencies interrupt with all of these different sounds that you just heard. I also manipulated with the volume here and put the automation on the volume to gradually decrease the volume of these pieces. And the same thing with the second percussion here. Just cutting low information here and basically manipulating with the automation and cutting these pieces into smaller pieces, which sounded a little bit more interesting for me. The groove was a little bit different compared to the original one here. So for example, this is the original piece I've recorded from the session percussionist. And this one is cut into smaller pieces to give some variation for the groove of these percussion sounds. So they are cut in a different way, and I probably used another different sample loop here with more shakers here. But in general, I combine all of these higher frequency percussion loops together on one track to give much more variety in the arrangement later on. So I can play with different rhythms and different grooves and changing the mood a little bit with these percussion sounds. I like to use multiple of them and multiple grooves and rhythms, and I just want to stack mid-range frequency percussion loops together with high-range frequency percussion loops so they can sound much more full together. Let's go to the another sound. We got flute here, and you can hear at the beginning already, I've already have two flute ornaments here, which are the samples that I have from Stephen Key from Sonic Sorcery. I've discussed this before. I'm really inspired by his work. He has multiple samples and multiple templates and sound banks for sound healing. He has different templates for creating music in different genres, but with this kind of organic feeling. And he has a lot of great samples that you can immediately use in your sessions, and you can spice up your sessions with these beautiful sounds that he's created. I will upload a link for his channel in the description of this video. He has a lot of these kind of samples, and I've just basically used a flute ornaments from sample pack that I brought from him. I think it's Shamanic Dream sample pack, and you can hear it in solo. Very nice flute ornaments, and in the context of the whole arrangement with different instruments at the beginning, it sounds like this. So just a little bit extra flavor on top of this guitar, and I didn't do a lot with this flute. So these effects are effects implemented by Stephen Key. He put it just a little bit of compression and EQ on top of this flute. I've added an additional effect. I wanted this flute to be much more spacious, and I like to add lots of reverb on my music pieces. Sometimes I use too much of this reverb, but in general, I like to use a lot of different reverb effects and delay effects on my sounds. And in this case, you can see for yourself what is the difference with and without the replica here on the flute. Without and with. Maybe in solo without. And with. Okay, you got this longer tail. It's very nice at the beginning of the session when you don't have a lot of sounds. I like to use this reverbs with longer tail. So this is everything about the flutes here. Another instrument that we have, it's a drone that I've recorded. And some basic melody. And for this purpose, I've used Omnisphere. So Omnisphere is the plugin that I bought years ago, and this is one of my favorite plugins that I use. It has lots of different sounds from different genres. Check out Omnisphere, guys. It just opened my imagination and inspiration multiple times, and it's just basically a great plugin, one of the greatest on the market, I would say. It has a lot of multiple different sounds from all of the genres. I highly recommend it for everybody who wants to start creating music and doesn't want to invest a lot of money into different plugins and want to have one plugin basically for everything. And Omnisphere is this plugin. You can build like whole track by only using the Omnisphere, and you can build this track in different genres. There is a lot of great drum sounds, natural sounds, synthesizers, all of the drone pads, ambient pads. There is basically everything in this plugin. So I use it very often. And I also created some different melodies with it here later on. So these are the melodies that I've created with this plugin. In this case, I only used one instance of Omnisphere here. Let's go to another one. This is the bass here, also automated, a lot of volume changes here. It's just a simple bass with the use of the Easy Bass plugin. Easy Bass is my go-to plugin if it goes to the bass. I'm using and getting inspired by multiple presets that they have here. I just listen to them and put the bass on top of my track in a certain key. You can pick the key here and it's fitting your track and it's playing the melodies within this key, and you can get inspired instantly. I've created this simple bass line and I put just side compression on this simple bass line where the kick that I've created before, which is from the EXO, is ducking the bass because I didn't want the frequencies of the kick and bass clashing within each other. So in general, every time the kick is hitting, is decreasing the volume of the bass for a couple of milliseconds. So this is why the sound of the bass is ducking here. And without it, and with. So again, it's not perfectly mixed. I've already here in this session that I could work on the kick drum more and this bass, and I could mix them better. But in general, I was happy at that point with the result, and it's doing the work. The compression is doing the work, and I've recorded this bass line in different melodies pattern here also. Just simple bass line here, just one sound, and I can also play this in the context of the full mix, for example. So this is the bass playing in the whole context of the mix. Let's go to another sound, which is female vocal. I used some female vocals here. These are the MIDI patterns of these vocals, but these are basically presets. Very nice vocals. I've added a lot of reverb on them, and these are the vocals from another plugin that I really like. It's the World Suite 2 from UVI. So this is basically vocal ambience, part of this plugin, which has a lot of effects and different samples of different vocals. You can check it out for yourself. I won't get into detail with all of this. As you can see, we can already dedicate one episode for every one of these plugins. I just want to show you briefly what I use here. Another instrument is Oud. It's a melody that I've created here. It's a basic melody. Sounds like this. And it's another plugin that I've bought a couple of years ago. Middle East Oriental Sounds. This is actually Oud. You can manipulate with these sounds. There's a lot of presets that you can use and get inspired by. Another plugin that I use. I really like this Oriental series of the plugins from Native Instruments. And basically, there's just one melody, maybe at the beginning. There is a different melody at the beginning, and different melody later on, much more simple melody. That's basically it about the Oud. Another two samples also from Stephen Key's template. Once again, shout out to Stephen Key and his amazing work. Very inspiring work to me. Shaman's voice. And I think it's the same voice. I just pitched this voice a little bit. This is the original one, and this is pitched. So it's a little bit extra here when they play together. It's much more interesting, the higher pitch sound playing on top of the lower pitch, and I've made these different sounds, stuck them together. Also lots of reverb, but actually this reverb was already in the samples that Stephen Key created. There's a third one, but it sounds a little bit different. Much more like a drone here. Let's give it a listen in the context of whole mix. Yeah, I really like this part. I really like this part with this drone. Another instrument, these are strings. Oh, I think I have another instance of Omnisphere here. Yes. So I used this Lush Ambient String Orchestra preset, and I've created different chord progressions, very simple ones. Let's listen to them in solo. Yeah, this is the basics of this, the beginning of this chord progression, and later on it's evolving with more sounds, just to give a feeling that it's an evolving and increasing sounds with the intensity. And then later on, it's gradually, I've lowered even the volume here and make it much more simple later on in the arrangement. And as you can see, I've introduced strings in the second part of this main breathing round, because I wanted to have the second part much more emotional and much more sophisticated and nuanced, and give me much more emotion when the person who is breathing to get more into their emotions and feel the emotions much more. So this is the piece I've used. So this is basically the reason why I used some strings, acoustic orchestral strings, in the second part of this breathing round. So these are the strings. To another extra vocals, female vocals that I've used, and these are the samples that Sandy sent it to me. He picked the sounds and they sounded really inspiring. I asked him for more vocals here because we wanted to implement much more vocals in this session. So So this is actually the same sound, which is pitched, I think, for 4 octaves up. This is original sound on the 0. And I just played with the melodic parts of this sound here. So in the context of whole mix, that's basically it. Another just one small sound here. What I see is some weird effect I've added. I just chop up this piece of sample at the end, but in general, in the context of in the whole music, it will make much more sense for you. Just give it a listen now. I don't know, for certain reason I have one sample cut it off here, but basically if I would duplicate it, this would make much more sense now. So in the context of whole mix, once again, so this is what I did here. Another one, Shamanic Atmos, another piece from Stephen Key's work. I really like this kind of shakers and natural ambient oriental sounds that he's creating. This is amazing, and it's a little bit of extra cherry on the top, I would say. And this is the rack that he created. I think this even atmospheric effects rack is for free on his website, I think, and you can download it for free if I'm not mistaken. And you have like a lot of different sounds here: shakers, maracas, a lot of reverb, rainmakers, ocarina, some flutes, different sounds of birds. It's just amazing, and I very often use these kind of sounds to put a cherry on the top of my mixes. And also, actually, another sound from his library here, Tribal Ambience. All of the sounds are, I think, from one template that I bought from him. I think I bought 2 templates from him, but all of these samples are included in the Shamanic Dreams template, if I'm not mistaken, but in general, he has the tutorials about all of them and which sounds are included in every of his templates on his website, on his YouTube channel, and you can check it out for yourself. This tribal ambience alone, nice ambience, and in general, in the context of the whole track, that's basically it. Also some automation with the volume, as in every kind of piece here. Another one, what we got here, Shamanic Atmos, another Shamanic Atmospherics, I think. So yes, I used two Shamanic Atmos effects. I don't know what I did it in the two instances, but in general doesn't matter. We have the first one here, this is the second one here. I used them for different sounds, but in general it could be in one rack, you could build the whole track. So we have hang drum at the end. It's an Omnisphere sound here. If we go inside, you will see that I've picked a preset here, but in general, I've changed the sound of this preset for the hang drum sample here, and I've played a simple chord progression here. It's a basic chord progression at the end, and added a lot of reverb, as you can hear with the replica. It's without. And with. So that's basically it, what I did for this session. I think I covered basically everything inside this session with as much detail as possible. If you have any extra questions about certain sounds or plugins or the way I am approaching the arrangement and different sounds in the arrangement and all of the different mixing and production things that you would like to learn more, just ask the question in the comment section. I will do my best to give you the links for these plugins, give you the links for the tutorials and different YouTube channels that I'm using and feel inspired, and I'm learning from actually all of these things. So feel free to reach out to me. I hope you enjoyed this kind of tutorial, and you can also let me know in the comments if you would like to see much more of this kind of longer tutorials where I go in depth inside my sessions and I show all of the different things. So thanks for watching, and I hope it was inspiring to you on some level, and see you in another video.